Hello and welcome to the kbbreview podcast. I'm Andy Davies and I'm here with Trevor, Liz PJ, Nick and Justine for another brand new episode of Season 16. This week we're looking at an issue that comes up whenever I ask independent KBB retailers how they're doing, and that's getting customers and clients to sign on the dotted line and commit to the purchase, getting them over the line. Whether it's dithering and procrastination or financial insecurity and lack of confidence, something in the air is making them put off the final decision much longer than usual. So how big an issue is it? Is there anything you can do about it? And is this part of a wider conversation about sales techniques versus design skills? It's all coming up. But first, entries for the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards 2026 are coming in thick and fast, and it's looking like being another fantastically diverse year. I love it when we get entries from across the retail and design spectrum, whether it's big showrooms and big budgets or small showrooms and small budgets. We really do see them all and we love it. So have you done yours yet? Entries are open now and the closing date is Thursday, November the 13th. And everything you need to know is at kbbreview.com/awards, and that link is in the episode description. Good luck. Okay, let's start by getting the introductions over the line. Here is, as always, Trevor Scott from RFK and Rugby. Hello, Trevor.
Good morning. How are we?
All good. Here's Justine Bullock from the Tap End near Cardiff. Hello, Justine.
Hello.
Here's Liz PJ, Liz Pantling-Jones from Lima Kitchens in Milton Keynes. Hello, Liz.
Morning.
And here's Nick Warrington from Stuart J. Warrington in Macclesfield. The J stands for James. Hello, Nick.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Well, how is everyone? How has the week been? Who's got a good win of the week for us?
Well, we had a good cookery demonstration Tuesday night at the showroom. Over 30 people attended and raised £150 for Rugby Food Bank. So quite pleased with that.
That's really good, isn't it? How's everyone else? How's everyone else finding the footfall at the moment? Nick, what do you think?
I'll have to be honest, I've barely stepped foot in work for the last week. I was in Italy for 3 days last week visiting a porcelain manufacturer, and I've had a long weekend down in London. I'm coming live from the Premier Inn in Soho this morning. So,
okay.
So I've done very little work over the last week,
Well,
I have to admit.
Nick's in a seedy hotel in Soho. Justine, how about you?
I'm at home, so I'm not in a hotel, but we had a good week. We've had a good past week. We've closed on a project that we're doing in Kensington in London, so that's nice. We're doing 3 bathrooms and a cloakroom there for a Welsh client, a local client that also has a property there, so that's good.
Liz, I'm not going to ask you how your week's been. We've already established before we started pressing record how your week has gone. So
Thanks.
Yeah,
I'll keep that to myself.
We'll skim over that and go straight into whatever we're going to talk about. Okay, so as I said, what I hear a lot from retailers at the moment is that footfall and inquiries aren't bad, and in fact even getting a little bit better, but there's still this issue of getting customers to commit. It just still seems to be very difficult. So are you finding that, and how frustrating and annoying and debilitating is it for your ongoing business? Justine, let's start with you because you seem to be all over the country.
Yeah, I think that it is tricky. It's a tricky subject to discuss because no two clients are ever the same. So it is really difficult to think about what type of tactics or sales, ploys you can use to get someone over the line when no two clients we've ever had operate in exactly the same way. So yeah, it's an interesting topic. I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say.
But are you finding this is more of a thing now than it was a few years ago, for example?
I think that it's more of a thing for us as a business because we are more target driven. We've got a bit more of a strategy, a plan for the future. And then if you are going at your business with a bit of a vision, I think that becomes more important for you. And I wonder if the podcast culture that we live in now, the LinkedIn vibe that we've got going on and the contacts is making independence more focused in a professional business capacity than potentially we used to be. So we've got more tools available to us and we're all trying to level up. We're all trying to be better, And then I think that's hand in hand.
So maybe we're noticing it more and measuring it more rather than it being more of a problem than it has been in the past. That's interesting. Nick, in your CD Soho dive, what do you think? Is this an issue for you at the moment? Have you noticed it more or are you just measuring it more?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you. And I'll be the first to admit that whilst I have started tracking very recently, it's something that historically, I haven't done, as Justine mentioned. And I think because of that, a lot of retailers have to just go off, a small retailer probably historically go off gut instinct. And my gut instinct is that we have got lower footfall, leads generally than we perhaps had, say, even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The flip side of that is that the leads that are coming through tend to be better quality leads. If someone is getting in touch with you, they're coming in the showroom, generally they've already done some homework and you're usually on a short list already. So from my perspective, there's sort of pros and cons from what we're seeing. But obviously a few more leads would be very nice too.
But when you get those leads and you go through the sort of the design and process with them, are they taking longer just to make that final decision, just to go, okay, Nick, let's do it, let me sign on that bit of paper?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably two aspects to how the time it takes to get people over the line. One is how frequently people are coming in, and then it's how you get them over the line. And I think people are spending more time to get. It does take a little bit longer to get them over the line, and I think part of that is economics. So a little bit of economic uncertainty. We're still getting that at the moment. I think most people are the same, whether you're running a business or you're a consumer. You like certainty. It enables you to plan and it gives you confidence. That certainty isn't there at the moment, and that is definitely affecting people's willingness to push the button. And it's really our job as salespeople, as well as kitchen designers, to guide them through that process and help them decide whether or not that's the right thing for them to do.
Liz, how about you? We've talked about this before. As Nick says there, is this issue about economics? Or is this just about the sheer amount of choice that's put in front of people that they just can't make their minds up? I mean, what's your driver for this, do you think?
I think there's too much of a hang on to there being historical patterns within the industry which don't exist anymore. Economics always play a part. The fact that we've got a budget coming up and people already feeling comfortable as a kind of general rule, that is going to have an impact. So once that's over, I think we'll start seeing footfall and commitment from clients being a lot easier. And yeah, just the whole exposure of what we've got to product and how to cost save and mistakes that we've made in our own kitchen, all of those things that you see on social media as well. I think all of these things have an impact and delay people feeling comfortable in their own mind, as it were. So I think there's just a lot of different factors that make a difference here.
Trevor, you've got 3 showrooms now.
Yep.
You must have lots of jobs just on the cusp always of getting that signature. Is this better or worse than it's been before?
Well, within the last 2.5 years or so, it's been fairly constant, which is that there simply isn't a big enough pile of work in the in-tray. And though the work that's in those in-trays is good quality and will hopefully all convert into good jobs for us, there just simply isn't enough of them. So if a percentage of those, and it's a fairly high percentage, take a long time to convert, then it just drags out the whole sales process and you end up with gaps. And, what we're constantly doing is gap filling in our months. We might program and sell jobs that are not going to be installed for 2, 3, 4 months, and end up with a reasonably healthy looking long-term order book. But that long-term order book stays full of gaps until you get quite close to the cutoff for it. And you're constantly trying to get conversions that will fill those gaps and turn an otherwise mediocre month into an average or a good month. That's the perennial struggle for any business, I think, but certainly one for ourselves.
Justine, in your experience of this, where do they stop? Where do they get stuck in the journey? Is it literally they've got the whole thing sorted out, they know exactly what they want, but they just can't make that final decision? Or is it before that when they just can't choose the right tile or something? Where in the journey do they get stuck?
If I think about some of my recent clients or some of the company's recent clients, I would say we have people that maybe start too soon. So if they're building a property or they're having a large renovation, sometimes they can be overzealous and come to us too prematurely. So we do all of the exciting stuff with them. We get them all motivated, do the design. But then there's such a lag time between that and when they actually need to order. You're in danger of engaging people too soon. And then by the time they're ready, you've lost that exciting relationship with them because they've been coming back and forth to you too much. So I think engaging with people on large projects too soon is definitely something that we don't do. We discourage it. The sweet spot is them coming at the right time, isn't it? While they're excited, the budget hasn't been blown on Windows or something else, but also when they're actually ready to proceed. So too soon is something that we always have in our mind, yeah.
Right, so it's when it's part of a bigger project and they're waiting for other trades or other parts of it that they've got stuck because they're waiting for somebody else.
Yeah, and then they can question their choices then. They question their decisions, or, the budgets change. And then when you're going back and forth with people and the excitement gets lost, I think that can put some barriers in the way then. So we definitely discourage people if they come to us too soon. And then equally, on the flip side, you've got people that come to you too late. And then it just becomes like a huge drama and everybody gets stressed. You can't go quick enough. Then inevitably you end up making mistakes. And sometimes that can put people off ordering them because everyone's just in a tiz, So they are the two major red flags. If someone's come too soon and if someone's come too late, they're like red flags for us, yeah.
I think we can all agree, if nothing else, that bathrooms are more interesting than windows. Let's just all agree on that. Windows are literally boring. I mean, you can literally see right through them. Okay, so what other reasons do you get given for this kind of dither, for this prevarication? Because no one likes to admit they just haven't got the money, do they?
Well, I think the thing with it is that people are aspirational, and they're aspirational for a lot of different things all at the same time. So they might be aspirational for a nice holiday in the Seychelles. They might be aspirational for a new kitchen. They might be aspirational for a new car. And any one of those or all of them could come together at the same time. And the key, I guess, is keeping them motivated and incentivized in your project being the aspirational product of choice. That's the one that's going to cross the line before anything else does. And they've got all the time in the world, of course. This is the thing with it at the moment, that they've just got all the time in the world. So that they'll win the shop with enthusiasm, but they'll make the purchase when they're fit and ready, not when you tell them to.
Liz, say you've got a client and they're on the hook, right? And you know they're going to go with you eventually, but they just keep going round and round in circles at the end of it. How many tweaks and revisions and changes are you prepared to do before you just say, look, this isn't going anywhere?
Not many. One of the conversations I've been having recently with some other retailers is how firm do they stand on the line? And I think across myself and my two designers, we all stand slightly differently on those tweaks and revisions. So I'm very much, no, this is the end of our free service. You need to give me a commitment. I'll make those changes for you and we'll do that as the final paperwork. Whereas another one of our designers will get pulled into that. Yeah, we'll send you the deposit if you can just send me this before. And then it's like, oh, we've been thinking now we've seen that. Can you make this other tweak? And that just keeps stacking up. And it tends to be those clients, in my opinion, that don't end up ever committing, which is why I stand firm on making those tweaks or not. So yeah, maybe 2 appointments, maybe 1 little tweak if I particularly like the client. But yeah, I'm not one for keep making revisions just to keep the client happy. There needs to be some commitment that way. And our businesses cost us a lot of money, from opening the showroom, turning the lights on, staffing it. That needs to be covered. What people receive from us as independents is very different from what they receive from the shed. So they're not having a comparable service. They're not having a comparable service against DIY kitchens or another online retailer. So yeah, we need to kind of respect that, in my opinion, and so do our clients.
Well, in a utopian world, I quite agree, Liz. But the reality is that every customer is precious, and anything that we can do to keep them on the hook and keep them interested and keep them motivated in us, then we'll do it. And we're very conscious of the fact that they're not just talking to us, but they're talking to the competition as well. And if we dig our heels in and start going, well, hold on a minute, we want some commitment from you, otherwise we're not doing any more work for you, then, their eyes glaze over and they toddle off down to the competition, who are more open and receptive to taking part in further design amendments and such like. Obviously, you try to limit it, and you don't want to be a busy fool. That goes without saying. But the reality is that you want to keep them interested in you and keep them engaged. And if doing more amendments and more revisions is part of the process of keeping them engaged, then so be it. That's the price you're paying, especially in the current climate.
That really surprises me, because do you keep your clients engaged through events? You've got reasons to contact them, reasons to build that relationship in a different manner. I always find that people who want constant tweaks are the ones that never end up committed. So
No, I mean, I get you. I mean, we're actually on a really good run at the moment of first presentation commitment. So we're really pleased about that. Means that we're listening to the brief, we're getting the brief right, we're hitting the budget, and we're taking the order early. But for every one of those, which is it's a high ratio at the moment, but for every one of those, there's another 2 or 3 that are still dragging their heels, and we've still got to accommodate them as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm kind of between the two here. And
that means you've got the casting vote, Justine.
I think what's really interesting, and Trevor makes a really good point, is that what I find is momentum is key with sales, and I will do design amendments if I can see that there's momentum in the sale and that they are pushing forward. Where I start getting a bit cagey is if I do something and then 3 weeks later they come back and say, "Oh, I've been thinking about this," blah, blah, blah. And what that usually means is they're still trawling around and got a few different ideas and still haven't made their minds up. And that's when that happens. I take that as a reflection on me not doing my job properly. I should have got them to a point sooner where they'd made those decisions, because the big problem is that customers come in and they are just absolutely overwhelmed with choice. There's a real FOMO going on where they don't want to push the button on the design because they might have missed some nice little tweak that they could have had in their kitchen. And so you have to be really clear in pulling them back towards the line, if you like, and saying, let's clear those obstacles away. What issues are remaining? Let's deal with those issues, and then responding to those fairly quickly, because as soon as you let things start to drag, that's when they're drifting away as well. And, you know, as independent retailers, we've got to understand that when we allow that to happen, there will be another retailer somewhere else who is not allowing that to happen, and you're basically allowing the competition to step in and take that sale from you.
All right, Justine, what do you think?
Basically, it's the scale, isn't it? The sweet spot's in the middle. You either have people who see too much or people you're not seeing enough. And they contact us. We tend to ask them, or we try and ask them, okay, are you coming in to proceed with your deposit, or are you coming in to make changes? Like, we try and suss out what's going on before they even get to the showroom, so we're more prepared. And I think that it's okay to ask people where they're at. You know, one of the questions on our consultation forms is, have you had designs from elsewhere? Are you engaging with another company at the same time? So we know where we stand. And I think that that's absolutely fine. So I think you can ask customers so that you can glean as much information about where they're at before they even get to sit opposite you. And then that way, you know, if the presentation is geared towards them getting the best price, if it's going to be geared towards them proceeding because they're ready, or if they're just miles away and you know where you're at. And I think just understanding each individual client in an honest way and then being honest with you gets the best results. Because if you have a client and they say to you, I'm just a really slow decision maker, you know where you stand from the outset. And then I don't mind making changes for that client because you know they're committed, they respect what you do, and they honor and value your time, but they are also just a slow decision maker. That's very different to someone that doesn't respect your value and your time, and they just keep popping in because they live down the road, or they have no intention of proceeding until next year, but they want all of your time and attention because they're just a very free, available person themselves. So understanding your clients is key, but you have to ask the right questions in order to understand that, because a lot of people won't lead with, oh, I'm just a very slow decision maker. You have to try and figure that out yourself.
Yeah, I mean, as you said at the beginning, I think each client is completely different, aren't they? And they should be approached in that way. Okay, so look, we've all touched on some things there, but what everyone listening to this is thinking, yeah, but what do you do about it, right? What can you actually do about it? And no one's got the answer to this, of course. But have you found anything that works just to get people, the questions you can ask, the techniques you can use? Do you close? Do you have closing sales techniques that you use just to try and get people over the line? What things do you put in front of them to actually force them into making a decision?
One of the things that we've been doing more and more of lately, and it's been an evolutionary process, is gone are the days of actually listening 100% to the client and giving them exactly what they want. I know that sounds like as kitchen specialists is what we should be doing. Because what happens there is that the client ends up with a £35,000 quote for a £25,000 budget. And you look at them and go, there you go, ta-da, it's beautiful. And they go, yeah, it is, it's beautiful, but I can't afford it. So we will always now present 3 options. And it will be, the one they really wanted, the one that we think they can actually afford, and perhaps the one that, if money was no object, they really ought to go for, which might be even further different and further removed from the one that they thought they might like. We could usually then find a middle ground between those designs and those prices where, perhaps the client is going, oh, thank goodness for that. You were more than happy with what you've done for us there, and it's coming on budget, so that's great. Or they look at the one that's slightly more expensive than they could really justify at the time when they came into you, but they go, do you know what, it's £7,000-8,000 more than we really wanted to spend, but it's fantastic, we're going to find the money. So that kind of boxing clever design wise, I think, is quite important, and we do it a lot. Also, of course, there's incentives, there's deadline-based incentives, so promotions and such like. But they tend to only work at as the final close on deadline. If you've got a promotion that ends on the 31st of October, then you're going to get a rush of orders 48 hours before that deadline. You're not going to win every order during the course of October just because there's a promotion on. They'll just stack up and wait to the last minute. As long as you're aware of that, again, you can plan for it accordingly, because you're going to get that rush of work that's going to come through at the last minute. And you then target and focus email and focus phone call those clients that are on the edge, and remind them politely but firmly that there is a deadline on this promotion. And that will hopefully get them across the line.
We often use dates, kind of manufacturing or installation dates, tied in conveniently with when clients want it. But also, I think having the confidence to ask, what elements of this are kind of holding you back? What elements are you unsure about? Which elements do you feel like you need to think about? And being able to have that open conversation is important. And in fact, for the next 2 weeks, I've got one of my designers off. So I'm going to call a couple of the clients who have said, I'll send you the deposit. It's never turned up, and say, where are you at? What's happening? Can I do anything? Is there anything you're unsure about? And try to identify if there's something that the designer and salesperson has kind of missed picking up on as well. And I think because we work in a team manner for our sales and our design, that is something that works quite well. Just being able to put a different set of ears to what the client's saying, and overcome issues in a different way.
Justine, how about you? What other techniques do you use when they're in that dithering stage?
I think you can, again, just try and have a very personable conversation with people. So ask them, much like Liz has said, is there anything holding you back? Was there something that we've done that you don't like? Do you feel like we haven't hit the nail on the head for you and you're just reluctant to tell us because you feel a type of way about that? Again, it's just being human with people, And that helps, because then you can honestly sometimes get the truth out of people. Whereas I think there's a lot of pride when you go into a higher end place. Sometimes budgets do change during the process, and then sometimes people don't want to tell you that their budget has changed when they've gone so far with you. So we just try and make it so that we're very personable and that people can tell us things like that, so that you don't lose people because of pride, which we have done in the past. I'm certain of it. I'm certain that we've lost people because they didn't want to tell us that their budget had dropped.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I use the time-related ones of both slots and promotional deadlines. I think it's really important that throughout the process, you are talking about the sale and the close, and finding out how they're feeling about the price that you've quoted. And I get that sort of out in the open fairly early. You might as well find out whether they're completely shocked or feeling comfortable with the price that you've given them sooner rather than later. So I think that's important, because when you get into that can really open up a very useful conversation, because sometimes people are surprised by a price because they just really didn't have any fundamental basis upon which to come up with a budget in the first place. And so sometimes they end up going shopping around a little bit because they need some affirmation from elsewhere that actually that price is sensible and that they just didn't have a clue in the first place. And then you get somewhere, this is literally all the money that we are prepared to allocate, and whether that's a sensible level or not, that's what we've got to spend. And so if that's the case, you need to get to that conversation. Again, you might as well do it sooner rather than later. I've said before, time is our most valuable commodity and we don't want to waste that. So for me, it's really just keeping them on, finding what's holding them back, if there's any hesitations, and trying to clarify where the reluctance lies and trying to resolve that for them and with them.
Trevor, this is a very big question, but the designers that work for you or the customer-facing people in your showrooms, are they salespeople who design or designers who sell?
Well, I think we've got a bit of a mix of both, really. I would like to think that all of our designers are they're designers, but the part of their job role is to sell their designs as well. And we try to give them as much encouragement and training as we can do to ensure that they read all the buying signals correctly and can answer objections and close in for the sale. What we don't employ is direct salespeople, where their only raison d'etre is to go out and win the order, and then there's a designer in the back room that's in essence clearing up the mess that they've created, because that waylays utter madness, and it's not the route that I think many, I'm not going to say any, but I don't think it's the route that many kitchen specialists want to go down. We're perhaps a little different as well in that, I know, for instance, that Liz uses project management within the operation of your business, whereas we don't. Our designers manage each of their own projects from cradle to grave. So that's a burden on their time, which could be argued means that they're slightly less effective as salespeople than they could be because they're being pulled in a number of different directions. But I think we like the fact that we're maintaining that positive relationship with the client from cradle to grave with an individual designer.
So, Liz, would you rather hire a good designer who's a brilliant salesman or a brilliant designer who's not a great salesman?
I think you can support on the sales. I find it harder to teach the design element. So I think being able to support and coach that is easier. Personally, I know that that's the way that I tend to lean, someone with some experience. And I would say we've definitely got two people who are very good at designing, but one of them definitely showcases some very salesy approaches of my past. So yeah, we've got a good mix, and I think going too far on the sales element can lose integrity if you're not careful. So I think definitely leaning more towards the design side.
What do you think, Justine? I think some people find sales a bit of a grubby word, if you know what I mean, particularly if they come from a very design background and that's where their skills lie. So what conversations do you have inside your showroom about sales as opposed to design?
A lot. So we have something called our information station in the showroom, which is something that we refer to all the time. We update it every day. So we've got a number of whiteboards set up, and we have our running sales for the month. We have our clients that we're trying to convert in that particular month. We're just very focused on it, super, super focused on it. And we've seen our conversion rate go up. This is new. This is something that we've just started doing since May. So this is a new thing for us. We're just being very, very open and honest with the team, extremely clear about our goals and our targets, and everyone's really got on board with that. Whereas prior to that, we were extremely secretive and hidden about, our goals. We didn't actually have a team target that they knew about. Obviously we had goals as a business, and we would try to motivate them to hit those goals, but they never really knew what we were aiming for or why. So in May, we completely changed that, and now everything is extremely transparent and really open with the staff, and it's working really well. We're on a very much like a team track, and we're really enjoying it. We're all working together really well. It's fab.
Yeah, I think it's striking that balance, isn't it? Particularly within independence, because you are design-led, you are selling your own skills, and therefore you need to get that balance right. Somewhere like Wren, for example, they're very sales-driven targets, and you see them, designers on LinkedIn or whatever, saying, I'm a £1 million designer, because they put £1 million worth of business, and they are judging their success by that number.
And I think that that's okay, though. I think sometimes we can be a little bit ego-based, like, I don't want to push sales, or, it's all about the design. That's not really realistic, was it? Because if it was all about the design, we wouldn't have enough money coming in to support the business as a whole and support everybody. Of course it's about sales. And if it's not, that's almost a bit worrying, isn't it? If it's not about the sale, of course it is. Otherwise, we were just doing it for free.
it comes back to a previous episode about USPs, isn't it? What are you selling? And part of the thing you're selling is your skill and your expertise, but you still have to sell it. You still got to get it over the line, as we've been saying. Let's just sort of draw this to a conclusion here by asking a question that has no answer, which, they're my favourites. Is this a longer buying cycle the new normal? Is this just how it's going to be from now on, do we think? Is this just how it is, or is this a product of the economic environment that we're in? Trevor, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. So to answer your question with an imponderable, I'll give you an imponderable answer. When there's less clients about, then it always seems to be like pulling teeth to get them to come across the line. Whereas if you've got a wealth of new business, then you kind of just don't even notice the ones that are dragging their heels, because they're buried in the morass of overwhelming piles of work in the in-tray. Now those days seem to have long gone at the moment. I mean, the hope is that it will come back where we can't actually cope with the amount of inquiries. But under the current circumstances, and those that have been around for the last couple of years or so, then every lead is precious, and we've got to work on it and tease it and try and turn it into an order. And some of those will convert very quickly, and some of them will take an awful long time. And that I guess is the new norm. It's not a new norm I'm comfortable with, because it's making me even bolder than I already am. And I'm supposed to be bloody retired, not working in this business anymore. And here I am doing all this sort of stuff and other work within the business, trying to encourage our customers to place their business with us rather than with the competition. That's the new norm. The new norm is that I haven't retired. I'm 67 and I should be.
Nick, what about you? Are you preparing your business for this as the new normal?
In short, yes. I think that this is going to go on for the foreseeable future, and I think we've spent time internally looking at corporate bingo, customer journey, and what we do to get customers in, and then once they're in and we've got an active lead, how we deal with them and take them down the line and hopefully convert that into a sale. And I think that's something that you have to be organised with and prepared for, because the Here's My Design sold sales are very few and far between these days for us as a business, compared perhaps to where they were post-COVID, shall we say, and that sort of thing. So yes, a longer time from inquiry to conversion is the new norm, I think.
Yeah, I think that if you have a batch of customers that need more time, that's really tricky to navigate. I think you need both. You need a mix, just like you need a mix of designer and salespeople. You also need a mix of clients that need to go quickly and that will drag their feet, and that's fine. And I think ultimately the person who wins in business is the person who's just got the most resilience and grit and consistency. So if we all just changed our methods every time something changed with a client wave, that'd be foolish. You just gotta ride it out, and consistency wins, basically. That's what I think.
That's the perfect place to end this, and I think we've officially got this episode over the line, if only we haven't actually solved any problems as always. So thank you very much, everybody, and I will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye, everyone.
Yes, bye.